Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football. Screen's going crazy. Presented by Adam Loewy and the Loewy Law Firm. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, who are live from SEC Media Days. Be sure to tell us where you're checking in from this morning, what you're drinking, get all those questions in, and we are 45 days away from kickoff, so be sure to tell us who your favorite number 45 is. There are a lot of good ones to choose from, so we'll have to come back and check that out as well. And I also want to add, On Texas football coverage of SEC Media Days is brought to you by Vaughn Lane, Flat Creek Estate Winery, Advanced Pain Care, and South Point Dodge. Now, with that said, we're going to talk SEC Media Days. We're going to talk to Jeff and CJ for a little bit as well about what they learned. But first, guys, I want to back up to yesterday. It was a big day, decision-wise, recruiting-wise. Let's run back over it.
Well, yeah. First of all, I just want to say that it's not our fault we're late. They put on a great event here, but they have terrible internet, so they tell some things they have to work on. It's kind of embarrassing at this point, but we'll move on because we're going to be real on this show. Look, it was an unbelievable day for the Longhorns yesterday on the recruiting front. Look, I think everybody knows by now. There's a reason Bobby and I have been singing the tune we've been singing, and I don't sing well, but we've just been singing it. Tyler Atkinson commits to the University of Texas. Massive win for Texas. Great linebacker prospect. I think he can play anywhere at linebacker. I think he can play Mike. I think he can play Will. I think he can play anywhere. I think he's that level player. So I think that was a great get. The flip of James Johnson. Wow. I'm not sure what to say, but there's recruiting really matters here, guys. There's some like some weird looks going around, like even media to media. It's recruiting matters, man, in the SEC, and I'm here for it. It's awesome. I've always loved it, and now to be a part of it, it's very exciting. But James Johnson, I think, was a massive flip. We're going to get into him with Tony Hills on Hump Day with Hills. Hills is going to break down James Johnson for you guys from an offensive line perspective, because we've talked about him. You've heard Rod Babers talk about him. But two massive wins. I'm remaining the same. I think Texas is going to have a top 5 class once again. Derek Cooper will announce on Sunday the 20th. We continue to hear some positive chatter there, but 4 days away, long ways away in the recruiting world. But two tremendous gets yesterday, Bobby. One hell of a defensive class being put together by Texas right now.
Yeah, the third defensive 5-star for the Longhorns.
Jerry, third defensive 5-star for the Longhorns. I look at it and look, you and I were here yesterday when Tyler Atkinson happened. There was a little bit of a, that one's big. Texas landed the second straight number 1 player from the state of Georgia 2 years in a row. People looked around like, Texas is they're not going anywhere, despite what some people may have thought about the start to the recruiting class as of last week. And then around 4:30, just as Arch Manning is walking off the podium, or 5:30, I guess, here local time, Arch Manning's walking off the podium. Guess who commits? James Johnson, and he flips from Georgia. And when that whisper kind of made it around the room, it got awfully quiet for those that weren't the Longhorn fans, in my opinion. Longhorns doing extremely well right now on the recruiting trail, adding not only Tyler Atkinson, but James Johnson, both of those guys that Texas has recruited heavily for a long period of time. Johnson just two weeks ago, he committed to Georgia. Georgia had long been thought the favorite for him, yet when he took his official visit to Texas, you and I talked about this, Jerry, I don't think he expected to like Texas necessarily as much as he did in the immediate portion of it. And then all of a sudden he really did. And, they ended up in one service has him ranked the number 1 defensive lineman in the entire country. His film, and we'll watch it with Tony Hills, like you mentioned, is absolutely phenomenal. You're watching right now Tyler Atkinson, the other 5-star. The thing about Tyler Atkinson, and we talked to somebody last night, Jerry, you're right. Everybody thinks he is everybody thinks that he is a Mike linebacker or Will linebacker. Which one is he? The answer is
linebacker.
He's a linebacker, and he's a player, and he is a disruptor. We always talk about that on this channel. You know, there are players that are good players, XYZ. There are disruptors and game changers. That's what he is, in my opinion. Big day. I mean, not sure that I've been involved in a day like that where Steve Sarkeesian's on the podium. Arch Manning had the media scrum. I know. I mean, yeah, and Texas gets 2 5-star players.
Yep.
Not sure what else to say.
I'm gonna give way now to Jeff Howe to get his thoughts on press conference yesterday, what Sark and everybody had to say. I'll be back with Hump Day with Hills here in a few minutes.
But first, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Adam Loewy and the Loewy Law Firm.
Absolutely. Adam's a friend of the program, and we appreciate him very, very much. He's been a sponsor of On Texas Football almost from the beginning. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, please give me a shout or give Adam a shout at LoewyLawFirm.com. They'll give you a free, no strings attached consultation to see if you and your loved one might be due compensation because of a truck wreck, automobile accident, etc. Again, that's LoewyLawFirm.com.
Thank you for that, Bobby. And let's see here. I think Jeff is in the building. We got to get him to unmute himself, however. Jeff Howe, good morning to you.
That was Jerry. That should be a mute on Jerry's billboard, not mine.
All right, Jeff. So, yes, you're obviously there at SEC Media Days. What have been your takeaways so far, and what did you learn yesterday from Sark?
You know, I kind of want your thoughts on this too, Bobby. Somebody mentioned it. I apologize who, because we've had a lot of activity on the message board over on TexasFootball.com. Somebody said, you know, after watching Sark and watching the players, they said, I've never been more proud to be a Longhorn than watching this group represent the program. And that's not to say anything negative about other coaches and players that have come through, but Sark preaches culture. They talk about culture. They don't just talk about it, though. They live it. Like, culture is one of those things. When your football culture is really good, like, you shouldn't have to tell people how good it is. You should just be able to see it. And I think right now for Texas, I think that's what everybody sees. They see the culture. Like, yeah, you got great players. You got, you know, I think all three of the guys we talked to yesterday are all going to play in the National Football League at some point. But they're all three really good representatives of the university. And there's been a period of time where Texas necessarily hasn't had both. And then, you know, you get Sark, and, you know, he's not going to do anything to say anything to back himself into a corner. He's not going to embarrass the program. I thought he handled himself well yesterday, even through the whole Aggie Warham debacle. But it's I just thought it was a really, really good, positive day, Bobby, overall for the Texas football program, not just for where they are now, but keeping the trajectory of this thing going towards what we think is a real chance to go do something special.
Look, Sark came to the podium yesterday, and he was brought out by the Aggie Warham, Jeff. You know what I mean? And that could have thrown some people. It didn't throw Sark. He went to through his spiel. We spoke with Anthony Hill afterwards, listened to both Michael Taft and Arch Manning as well. They are extremely talented football players, a really good football team. But right now, what I think really grabs me more than anything is the cycle that they're in. It's, you know, they're good. I think, and this is in all due respect to Anthony Hill and Arch Manning and Michael Taft, I think they're going to be able to cycle through the next one and the next one. That's what Steve Sarkeesian is building in Austin right now. Because I'll tell you right now, I saw this personally. You know, yesterday when recruiting hits, you're like, okay, Tyler Atkinson, could he be the next Anthony Hill? Well, I think so. I mean, you saw how he acted on TV and how he articulate, and I just feel like they're in this cycle of winning begets winning. And to your point, I feel like they were great ambassadors of the university yesterday. I think yesterday was just a great overall day to be a Texas Longhorn on Tuesday, July 15th.
Yeah, it's you know, for years, one of the kind of the gold standards, if you will, for getting, you know, really good players who are good character guys Chris Peterson's organization, whether he was at Boise or Washington, everybody talked about Chris Peterson getting our kind of guys. You know a Chris Peterson guy when you see him. Bobby, I think right now Sark has got the kind of program and it continues to bring in the kind of kids where you're going to start looking at, you look at an Anthony Hill and Arch Manning now, and later it's going to be, a Tyler Atkinson and these other guys who say, that's a Texas guy. So we're starting to figure out what Texas guys are. I think, we say all that, but I think the other part of this too, let's not forget the football component of it. The thing that really jumped out to me, maybe the most definitive kind of comment moment yesterday for me, was I was down here on the floor and somebody asked Michael Taft one of the last questions he got. They said, who's the best competitor on this team? And Michael Taft points across the room at Arch Manning. He's like, I can tell you on offense, that guy over there is the toughest competitor and the hardest worker on offense. And we can talk about the hype with Arch, and the circus was about as crazy as I thought it was going to be. But at the end of the day, Bobby, when that guy, everybody can unequivocally say he's one of our hardest workers, he's one of our best leaders, he's a great teammate. That's when you really got something special when you can say that about your quarterback.
One of the things that we just showed on the screen, I'm not sure if you saw this or not, Jeff, when we were watching it, Michael Taft's tie yesterday. He had the initials of all the folks, young women, girls that were lost in Camp Mystics, Guervil flood that happened. That's the sort of thing that kind of brings together a community, if it's right, and that to have guys like that represent your not just your football program, but your university to a degree. That's the way it's supposed to be, Jeff. And I felt really good about how Sark handled things yesterday overall, and just it's interesting to be living in this time when you're seeing what's happening going on the 40 acres, whether it's recruiting, whether it's with the team, whether it's just how they're reaching out to the community. It's really, really strong, and I would say that it's indicative of what we need to do as people at some level. They're leading, they're carrying the torch in a good way, a really positive way.
The thing with Michael Taft that stood out to me, and Sark said this, one of the thing that makes him special is not just that he has these things at the forefront of his mind, or that he's thinking about others. It's the follow through. Like, it's one thing for all of us to say, well, yeah, I want to do this and I want to do that. Okay, but do you follow through on it? Like, are you a man of your word? And Michael Taft is a man of his word, and I don't know, Bobby, what you can respect about a person more than that they do what they say they're going to do. They follow through, and the follow through was there with Michael Taft. The other thing, other than Michael Taft and Arch Manning, and we heard from Anthony Hill too. When we talk about this roster, and I know we talked about how talented it is, top to bottom. Texas is in a position right now where they don't need to play a bunch of true freshmen. But we heard the positive reviews all spring on Nick Brooks, Lance Jackson, and Justice Terry. We know we're going to be good enough to play, but we talked to the guys yesterday, and even Sark said it, and you start hearing about whether it's the young receivers or Grayson Littleton in the secondary or Bo Barnes at linebacker. Bobby, there's a lot of freshmen on this team. Even if it's just covering kicks on special teams, there's a lot of those guys that are going to force their way onto the field somehow. Like, it is this roster, the build Sark is on, it really reminds me of when Kirby got to Georgia and just took that Nick Saban blueprint to Athens and just started stacking one top 3 class on top of another. That's what Sark is in the process of doing right now. And like I said, you don't need to play a bunch of freshmen, but I think you've got some freshmen that are just going to be that good and get their way. Like yesterday, the past couple of days since we've been here, I've got my head wrapped around the fact that Bo Barnes is going to help this team win football games somehow. It may just be on special teams. He is going to help Texas win a football game in 2020.
One of the things that came up yesterday, and Sark talked about it, Jeff, was depth. And that's really what you're addressing when you start talking about these young guys playing a bunch. And that is something that Sark mentioned. It's something that I spoke with Rod Babers about.
Yeah.
Like, when we were talking yesterday, I felt like Mac Brown had a really solid top 15 to top 25 players every year. And then there was a little bit of drop off to the second group. Okay. What Sark's building is completely different. He's trying to make it as almost as little a drop off as possible and have these young guys push the older guys. And I think depth on this team is it's getting to be freaky. We talked to Anthony Hill yesterday, and he was talking about this, Jeff, as well, how, you know, we want guys to push us and we want guys to feel like they can come in here and compete. And we want winners beside us. And so I just feel that that's the kind of program that Sark is building is this, you know, you want to say winner take all in some ways, but really it's with iron sharpens iron is the best kind of description. But look, Texas is doing a great job, and I thought they acquitted themselves well yesterday in the SEC Media Days.
Rod and I talked about it recently, you know, and Rod will be the first to tell you one of the reasons why he got to the NFL. He went against the first-round draft pick and practice every day in Roy Williams. So that's where you're getting to the point at Texas where your practices, you know, your Tuesday hard contact practices in some instances are going to be tougher than the game you play on Saturday. I've talked about it for years, Bobby. The thing that separates, you know, the elite in college football from everybody else is talented depth. When you can just kind of plug and go. That's Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson to an extent. The programs that have been in contention for national championships for the better part of the last decade, that's kind of where they are. And that's where Texas is now. And I think the other piece, too, is Sark mentioned this, and I don't want this to get lost. You know, he got asked a lot about NIL and the clearinghouse and where everything's going. But when he talked about how they're allocating funds, and I think this is no secret, we've all talked about this here on the channel and over on the site, roster retention is such a big part of that because at this staff's core, they want to develop players. And I think, like, the one position where I look at that, and you're really going to see it this year, is the offensive line. Like, I keep getting everybody talking to me, well, the offensive line is an experience. Right, it's an experience. But Cole Hudson started 13 games as a true freshman in 2022. DJ Campbell started for multiple years now. Neto's kind of waited his turn and been developing and been waiting for this opportunity. Trevor Gooseby started a couple of games last year. So, yes, it's an experience in terms of time played together. But number one, it's a really talented group. And two, it's guys that have been developing in the same system for multiple years now. This is something that Texas hasn't had in a very long time. So that's how you get a team with talented depth. Staff continuity. Sark, I'm glad Sark kept mentioning that yesterday because that doesn't need to get lost either. The fact that, number one, it's a really good staff. I mean, Bobby, when he got hired, I had some people at various functions and, you know, guys that have been supporting this football program longer than I've been alive say, hey, I haven't seen a staff at this like Texas maybe since Fred Akers' staff back in the day, just in terms of hungry football coaches that are great developers and great recruiters. So we've known this is a great staff, but the fact that it's the core of it has stayed together this long, that's been as much a part of the success as anything.
Same offensive and defensive coordinator since he started in Austin. You know, that goes to that. Jeff, thank you so much, bud, for stepping in for Jerry. We'll hear more from you later today. Talking to you. Got a live stream tonight, but Kalen DeBoer left the dais down below us as well. So Jeff's going to try to go get some work done along with CJ Vogel. Jeff, thank you so much, buddy. You're muted, Blake.
Oh, crap.
He did it. Josie, are you here?
Josie. Josie, are you here for this?
Bunch of BS.
Right on time, right on cue. That was awesome. Way to go, Blake. You're my hero.
Oh, man. I've been engaged in the chat, Josie. Yeah. All right. I'd like to write a mess up.
The 56-game hit streak remains.
Man, I was doing so good. 15 days. It's Jeff's fault. Jeff's fault is what it is.
You think about that. The 56-game hit streak, like, you can't even mute yourself that long. That's a record that it's never going to be broken.
Oh.
A little bit of news here, by the way, Blake, and I don't know if you have it, but we're going to have David Cutcliffe, the former Ole Miss head coach, Duke head coach. He's supposed to join us at 10 o'clock today.
10, right after a tough day with Hill. So we're going to have David Cutcliffe, obviously recruited Peyton Manning, coached Eli Manning, and Coach Peyton. and recruited him. Coach Eli Manning. He's very familiar with Arch Manning. Should be a fun interview coming up. Bobby will be doing that interview, and David will be sitting in this chair better than Jeff Power I ever could.
All right, guys. Now that unmuted, what I was trying to originally say was we have some super chats that we need to get to. And we're going to do this one from Drew Lockhart. Thank you, Drew. He says, OTF, hope you guys got some rest, been working hard, and it's all very much appreciated. Yesterday was a blast. Hook on.
It was fun for us, too. I mean, just bottom line, that was a lot of fun yesterday. We woke up, got up here around 7:30 in the morning, and we didn't stop working until, 9:30 at night last night? It was a fun day, but it was also warranted. I mean, how many days in your career do you have the head coach of the University of Texas at SEC Media Days, Arch Manning in his first media appearance at SEC Media Days, and land 2 5-star blue chips, the top player in the state of Georgia, and the number 1 defensive tackle in the country? I mean, I've been around for 30-plus years. It's a rare day for me. I'll just put it that way. So it was a lot of fun, and Drew, thanks for the super chat. I hope you guys enjoyed watching and following along. I'd also say CJ and Jeff and those guys, if you're on the message boards at all during the day waiting for news to pop, that's become a really fun place for people to hang out to when we're not on air.
This next super chat, fellas, from Devon. Thank you, Devon, for the super chat. He says, besides Lane Kiffin, who's been the most entertaining coach?
Ooh. That's more of a CJ and Jeff question, I think. I think it's happening today and tomorrow.
With who?
I think Brent Venables is going to be somewhat entertaining for people. For Texas fans, he's going to be very entertaining. I was just thinking, I don't know, man. I don't know. There's no Steve Spurrier in this crowd. I'll tell you that.
I just got to say this. This is Jerry's version of what is entertaining, is watching someone have issues. That's Jerry's version of entertaining. Lane Kiffin is actually not he's actually not one of those guys, Blake and Jerry, that is very loud. He's almost a shy speaker, and given that he doesn't come across as this big audacious speaker on the microphone at all. In fact, it's the opposite. He's almost the first time you hear him, you're like, whoa, wait a minute, this guy cracking jokes and making fun of everything. But I would say that Josh Heupel kept it a little light yesterday, the Tennessee head coach. But I don't know that any of them, to Jerry's point, none of them carry a candle to a guy like Steve Spurrier or Mike Leach. It's just that kind of personality right now doesn't exist, at least not at the podium. Maybe in a smaller mic setting like Lane Kiffin has when he goes on Paul Feinbaum or something.
I'll tell you where it does exist, in a car in Dallas.
That's
and here
right.
he is. Hump day with Hills, baby.
Tony Hills,
Tony
how we doing this
Hills.
morning?
Hey, man, I am phenomenally phenomenal, excellently excellent, wonderfully well, too blessed to be stressed. And if I was, nobody on this would know about it. What's up, Coffee and Football, OTF? Even in the car, we keep the energy up. What's happening?
Pretty good day for the Horns yesterday.
Absolutely.
Sark to the podium, right? And Arch Manning, he had his media day here in Atlanta. Michael Taft, Anthony Hill, all represent the university well. 5-star linebacker Tyler Atkinson commits, and then the day was capped off with James Johnson. The one industry ranking is a 5-star defensive lineman out of Miami. Flips his commitment from Georgia to Texas while Sark is at SEC Media Days in Atlanta. I'm not sure it gets much better than that, but we're watching James Johnson's highlights, and I had you watch James Johnson and wanted to get your thoughts on this defensive tackle.
Listen, he's a disruptor in the backfield. which is extremely needed, right? You can see why the original commitment was to Georgia because of the way that their defensive front plays with that penetrating style. Texas has that ability as well. It was interesting, just going into who he is as a person before I talk about who he is as a player. It was interesting seeing that he had his commitment to Georgia, but then he went there, and I think he was quoted of saying that he felt like something was missing, right? And then you go to Texas, and the environment that Steve has built there, the professional environment, but the relationship status shows you that relationships wins over transaction any time of the day, right? And so also he talked about the NFL style coaching that he gets from our defensive line coaching. So all of those factors, man, play into it. I bring that up to say this, guys. When you're talking about athletes, it's not just about the schematics, right? It's about the feel as well. And so what we see here is we see a kid that gets it. Now, when you talk about his play, this guy's phenomenal, man. His strength is cartoonish strong, first and foremost, right? Great hands, strong hands, disruptor, penetrator in the backfield, quick first step. I mean, God, look at this guy, man. Like, it's like he sees through the linemen, right? When this guy learns how to play the game at this level, as it pertains to understanding how teams will want to scheme him because of his athleticism, it's going to be a wrap. And I tell you this, I believe he has the ability, because of his size and frame, to kind of to play some of those big wide 5 techniques as well. So there's some versatility to him also. So I really like this pickup. I understand why everybody wanted him. I'm just happy he's riding on the 40 acres, man.
Hey, Tony, I got a question for you. The thing that he seems like to me is the term heavy hands.
Very much so.
Very heavy hands. When he hits you, he shocks people a little bit. Does that make sense?
It does.
What does that term mean, and what does that kind of advantage give you on a football field on the interior of the defensive line?
Great question, Bobby. Everything about interior line play is about hands and foot placement. First step, right? When you have a guy that has shock strength, I'll give you an example. I will never forget this for the life of me. We were playing the San Diego Chargers, and it was I believe it was 4th and inches. On 3rd down, we had a stop in the backfield with Casey Hampton. They called a flag and gave them 10 yards or something, and it put them on 4th and inches. I watched Casey put his head in the middle of a center and arm bar both the left and right guard and stop all penetration. Why do I bring that up? Because of the shock factor. When guards are trying to get their hands inside of defensive linemen, the first thing they're taught is to get their hands high inside, right? When I mean high inside, that means on the outside breastplate or a scoop under to be able to break the back bend. When you're getting your chest caved in by a defensive lineman with heavy hands, that kills all of that. And with offense, it's about being in sync. Everything has to be in flow. Those type of linemen cause problems when it comes to any type of zone plays or any type of power being able to stop double team in combination. So it's not just his heavy hands, but that's a huge factor that's going to serve him well when he gets to this level.
Tony, the other question I had for you as it relates to this, Texas now has 4 defensive line commitments, 20 commitments overall in this recruiting class. We were talking to Anthony Hill yesterday. And one of the things that I brought up with Jeff Howe just moments ago is how with Mac Brown, and I've talked to Rod Babers about this as well. It's like y'all had 15 to 25 guys that y'all knew were kind of, I don't want to say superhuman, but you were NFL future guys, right? And then Mac did a great job of kind of managing the rest of the roster to be contributors, good player, not definitely valuable and all this other stuff. But he had a 15 to 25 guys that were going to be NFL guys, and he kind of built the team around it from there. Steve Sarkeesian is doing it differently. He's trying to build this guys 1 to 85 that can possibly be NFL players. Now, it's not going to be that many. It never will be, right? But you're a former player, and that's more the NFL model, right? Where everybody needs to be good enough, right? And do you sense that with the way Sark is recruiting and has built the roster out, that they're kind of building out this 25 to to 75 to 85 range to be even more, I don't, impressive's not the right word, but more capable maybe, or more impact players?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about, Bobby, is what we call as uh, foundational, like a foundational group, right? So you have your superstars, but your superstars carry your team, yes, but you have to have role players that are very, very good at what they do to be able to win it all. That's what makes this game the ultimate team sport. Yes, I see that, and I get it. In the NFL, Mike Tomlin used to have this saying, no excuses, no explanations, only results, right? And the next man up. And what that means is that we're setting a standard. That's what we're talking about here with Sark. Sark is setting a standard. Your ranking and all of that, that's great. 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, whatever, right? Cool. It's cute. But when you get to Texas, there is a certain way that we do things. And I don't care where you come from, who you are. If we brought you in because we believe that you can carry that standard. So what you're seeing is really, really good players buy into the standard of Texas, the culture of Texas, and everybody else falling suit, and that raises the play of people. You might have some individuals where when you looked at him on film, you were like, he's a good player. I don't think he's special. But then he gets into a certain environment, and then all of a sudden he does things that you never saw on film before. Environment matters. And so that's how I believe Sark is building it out. I think he's finding guys that's coming in and saying, you know what, I'm not only buying in for Texas because of the things that we're doing here in the SEC and dominating at that level. I'm buying in because of the culture. I'm buying in because of the way we do things. I'm buying in because of the lessons that I'm learning and growing from a young boy to a grown man. I'm buying into all of that. All of that plays into the factor. On the football side of things, absolutely. He's going after the guys that he wants to be versatile. You saw it on 3rd and Longhorn. He talked about it. Look, if you're only doing one sport, look, man, I'm going to look at you a little different if you're in high school only doing one sport, because we like versatile guys. We want guys doing a lot of different things, right? So even in that particular thought process, that shows you the type of standard that he's setting, right? We don't want one-trick ponies here. We want guys to be able to operate in versatility, because that's going to give you the best shot of actually getting into the NFL. I was not a guard, guys, playing tackle. There's no way that I was a guard. But if I wanted to be in that league, I better damn sure understand how to play it, right? And it was because of that versatility, right, that Coach McQuarter had when he had me on left and right, that now I was like, okay, I can do this. It's the same thing.
Tony, somebody in the chat asked, I didn't have you watch the linebacker Tyler Atkinson. So if you haven't watched clips of him, that's cool. But if you have, I want your thoughts on him. That may be next week.
Let me do some research on him. But I will say this: I do know this for a fact. I know Derek Johnson's been working with him, so that's I know that. So that's a great start. Before my judgment on him, but if you're working out and you're seeking out Derek Johnson, who's one of the best linebackers to ever orange and white uniform, professional athlete as well, that tells me a lot about your mentality. So I already know he has the right mentality of wanting to be great, because he's already practicing with greatness.
All right, Tony, we're going to let you go. We have a special guest here, David Cutcliffe, joining us. Tony, that was Hump Day with Hills. Tony Hills, former Texas offensive lineman, as well as an NFL offensive lineman as well. Tony, thank you so much, buddy. Coach Cutcliffe, welcome to On Texas Football, man.
Yeah, I love seeing offensive linemen being celebrated. As a quarterback guy, your favorite player is offensive lineman, not receivers. I'm sorry, receivers, but that's the reality.
All right, we got to ask you. First of all, you've got a history with the Manning family, a good one. It's been very productive for both parties, I think. Right?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Give us. I remember when you actually recruited Peyton. I was a young buck in the industry, and I went and watched a game in New Orleans, and I was like, man, this guy, he just does everything right. And my question to you is, when did you start that process of evaluating him? What did you see? And then on to Eli, and I'd love to hear your background there.
Well, let me tell you this quick story. I was a prospect at a game in Legion Field when Alabama played Ole Miss. Quarterback for Alabama was a guy named Scott Hunter. The quarterback for Ole Miss was a guy named Archie Manning. It was my first time to see him play in person, and so I'm sitting in the stands. The score of the game, Alabama won 33-32. I was a guest at the University of Alabama at the game, and Archie Manning, 430 some odd yards passing, 500 plus total yards himself. After the game, and they got beat, I left. Everybody was going down to the Alabama locker room, the whole group of people. I cut off by myself and was trying to get in the Ole Miss locker room to meet Archie Manning. So that was my first evaluation. So when Peyton became a prospect, I was coaching at Tennessee, of course, and I saw one high school hit him. Wow. Like you said, just focus and work ethic and his feet. People confuse athleticism with speed. There's a lot of different athleticism. So I was hung on Peyton. You can't make more phone calls than what was allowed, but I made every one that was allowed.
I remember I was a young guy, like I said, and I actually, Coach, had went over and seen him, Peyton Manning, and Josh Booty. Remember him out of Shreveport? I'm sure y'all looked at him too. I'm sure. And I went to see them in 3 separate. Like I was in Shreveport on a Wednesday, and then I went to watch Peyton on a Friday. I can't remember who I went to see in between. There's somebody down in Lafayette or something like that. And I came away with that, and I said, I've got to rank Peyton Manning the #1 quarterback in the country, because at that time, Josh Booty was the superstar.
He was the national man.
Yeah, he was the guy, and
the program he was in, every part of it was phenomenal.
yeah, absolutely. But my point to you on that is, as a quarterback guy, it's the small things. Sometimes it's not the raw arm power. It's not the athleticism. It's more the functional brain, as well as all of that mixed together, and the willingness maybe to put that all together and make it something special.
I'm going to give you a word that I've always used with quarterbacks is sudden.
What was it?
Sudden. SUDDEN. Okay, in any sport, quickness is one thing. Quickness helps any sport, any position. But when a guy's sudden, you go, wow. Look back at some Peyton and look at the sudden delivery. Look at his mind being sudden, pumping a fake, doing whatever it may be. And I told Philip, I said, that's it. And so I'd put all my eggs in the basket with Heath Schuler. Everybody told me I was crazy out of North Carolina. Well, I wasn't. I knew that I had built a relationship with him. My intentions were to build a relationship with Peyton and his family. And we started that right then and there. And I'm going to be arrogant a bit, but the first home visit with Peyton and I knew he was coming to Tennessee. I'm sorry, everybody can be mad at me at all the other schools, but there was a connection, and I still have it in my heart today. That's real. So, yeah, I'm very fortunate. I don't call that love. You have to work to build those things and to sign somebody. Luck hasn't got anything to do with it. But you can be fortunate by building your own fortune, correct?
Here's this one. Peyton led you most likely to the Ole Miss head job, and then on to Eli.
Yep.
And so you don't stop to Peyton. You go on to Eli and Arch Manning's dad, Cooper. So Tell us about the family from that perspective and what you know about them and what Texas fans should expect.
Well, I tell you, greatness lives in preparation. I'm going to get straight. I'll quickly just say this about Eli and Cooper. They're Mannings. And when you say that, people now know exactly what you mean. That they're just great people, attention to detail, all the above. But with Arch, I was the head coach at Ole Miss when Arch was born. I had a courier bring scholarship papers to the hospital that day. I was that sold on Arch Manning. And but we've had a relationship. Cooper would bring him to Duke, and we would get a little workout or two in, and we'd talk on the phone. And my son's a high school coach and a great one in Oxford. So when they were up there, Arch would work with Chris, my son, and he and I both saw the same things. And yesterday morning when he arrived, I went to see him privately, and we had a great conversation. And it's the same thing. I went to Texas spring ball when he went out early. I call it the Big Two. He knew exactly what I was going to say. He smiled and said, Big Two. And I said, yeah, but I'm going to say them anyway. I said, this is a great opportunity for you to be the best teammate in your team. Talk about your teammates. Don't get caught up in anything else, controversy or expectation. Talk about your teammates. The biggest goal, and I told him this going into the University of Texas. I told his uncles this. His dad has heard this. Be, in the end, the best teammate on that team. 30 years from now, when somebody walks up and looks you in the eye and says, hey, man, you were the best teammate I ever had. Nothing will make you feel better. Nothing. I said, so that's one. And then the other is Arch. We don't work football. Nobody ever says, hey, I'm going to go work football. We play football. Smile and play. So I know we're lingering on a bit here, but smile and play. And I think he did that well yesterday. I think he did both of those things well. He's got the work ethic to be special. Let's see what happens.
I have one last thing, and then we've got to wrap up because you're being asked to go elsewhere. You're a big offensive guy. Steve Sarkeesian's a big offensive guy. You watched Texas, I'm sure, a little bit last year. Now you work for the SEC. How do you expect Texas offense perhaps to change or morph or transition this year under Arch, who has a different set of skill set than when you?
Yeah, I get to watch him practice, and I enjoy that. Coach Sarkeesian is a great offensive football coach. Their practice habits are outstanding. So you build on who you are. Arch is in that system, but we all adapt to the different abilities people have. So I think it's going to be fun to watch Texas offense morph a bit under Arch. I think in every way possible. I know they're excited about getting him back. The best friend an offensive quarterback is a run game. I think Texas can be really dominant if they're successful running the ball. That's going to produce more big plays. And so if you look at factors on winning football, my whole career, Dick Guervil and I are friends, and we used to talk about this. There's nothing bigger than running the football per average and then explosive plays, number of explosive, because you know what that computes to? Points per game. I will always tell our staff, I don't want to hear about your staff. Show me the PPG. That's all that matters.
Coach, I appreciate you so much. That's David Cutcliffe, former head coach, Duke, Ole Miss, a Manning acolyte that knew very early on. If you heard his early discussion in that meeting or in that discussion, Blake, you heard him talk about the first time he actually saw a Manning was actually watching Archie Manning while he was a high school recruit, while David was a high school recruit, and then tried to go over to the Ole Miss locker room instead of the Alabama locker room, even though he was a guest of Alabama. So fun stuff. He is a good ball coach, and we're really happy that he was able to join us here at On Texas Football this morning.
All right, guys, we got some stuff to catch up on, including some ad reads. And Jerry, I need you to tell us about Ridge Wallet.
I can definitely do that. Are you tired of that giant, crusty leather brick that was falling apart in your back pocket, made long drives terrible, back hurt on the left or right side? Yeah, those are the old days. Don't need that anymore. You need a Ridge Wallet. They're unique, slim, and modern design that holds up to 12 cards plus cash. They're made with premium materials like aluminum, titanium, and carbon fiber. There's over 50 colors and styles to choose from, including that kind of burnt orange leather look, that one that I think a lot of you guys are ordering. All Ridge products have a lifetime warranty. This is literally the last wallet you'll ever have to buy. Does it give you peace of mind as well, knowing that Ridge wallets have RFID blocking technology that keeps you safe from digital pickpocketers? There's over 100,000 five-star reviews online you can find about Ridge Wallet, and that is going to be more and more. Losing your wallet's the worst, but with the AirTag attachment, you'll always know exactly where your wallet is before panic mode kicks in, and we've all been there. They create everyday carry essentials like key cases, suitcases, and rings, all built with the same sleek, durable design. No matter what you pick, Ridge has free shipping, a 99-day free risk trial, and a lifetime warranty on all their products. So what do you do after that, Reed? You go to ridge.com and use the code ONTexas, all caps, at checkout for 10% off. Again, that's ridge.com, all caps, ONTexas for 10% off. Tell them where you found it. Ridge Wallet. That's On Texas Football.
Thank you for that, Jerry. And Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone about our other sponsor, South Point Dodge.
Yeah, absolutely. Texas football fans, score an easy extra point this season. When you get to the point at South Point Dodge, the Dodge Ram trucks, they've got a lot of them over there on the lot right now. South Point Dodge has more than 600 vehicles in stock, including the all-new 2025 Ram 1500. Get the real deal today and drive away in an all-new Ram, proven to last. Plus, you can get employee incentive pricing. That's right. You pay what our employees pay. Now, that's a real deal. So score today at South Point Dodge. Come see us off I-35 in South Austin or at southpointdodge.com. Get to the point at South Point Dodge. Thank you to the Stark family and the folks over at South Point Dodge for sponsoring On Texas Football.
All right, guys, more super chats we need to jump into this morning. And Jeff Carey here says, great job on the recruiting predictions. Not that surprised this year. Sark and his team are elite recruiters, even with the ever-changing rules.
Yeah, look, I think the whole key in recruiting right now for major universities is, and Sark alluded to this yesterday, getting more guys on campus, then deciding among all those elite players and prospects you get on campus, who's a good fit. And that could be the player, it could be the family, it could be all of it. It could be from a Texas perspective, it could be from the prospect and player and family perspective. The more of those guys you get on campus, then the better, the more talent you're going to have on your official visit as that process continues. And if you could get up to 45 to 50 official visitors, and they're all top line talent players, and that doesn't mean they're all ranked there, but in Texas's mind, who goes out and sees them in person. Look, my rankings are different than some other people's. I try to go out and see all these kids in person. Then you give yourself a really nice net. You're hanging around the rim on enough of the really good players around the country and in the state of Texas. And at the end of the day, the road's going to be winding and it's going to go different directions every class. But if you stay steadfast with your top targets and the guys who you feel like are the difference makers for your program, and a lot of those guys are going to be highly ranked, you're going to sign top 5 classes. But it can get ugly for a little period of time sometimes. But one thing that Sark continues to prove in the staff is that at the end of the day, people are going to look up and say, man, Texas signed another really, really good class. And I think that's what people are going to be doing in December, whether it's ranked 2, 3, 4, or 5, Bobby.
I look at it, and I go back to what we said earlier. It's who you add, Jerry, not who you lose. Texas added the number 1 linebacker in the country yesterday. They added the number 1 defensive tackle in the country. They have a 5-star edge prospect. They added the top cornerback in the state of North Carolina. I mean, just Jermaine Bishop, is he going to play offense or defense? I don't know. If he plays defense, I think Texas is pretty good shape at corner. I just look at it, and look, what they're doing right now is phenomenal, and we'll see where it goes from here. It's going to be fun.
I want to answer this question real quick, Blake. E. Kim said, do you have James Johnson ranked ahead of Guervil and Simeon? I do, but I think all three of those guys, and I have all three of them 4-star plus, meaning I think they're top 75 guys in the country. If you told me to lay them out in an order, James Johnson because of his disruptive ability, Kendall Guervil, and Damari Simeon. But I love all three of those guys. Now, I'm just here to tell you, I think all three have careers in football. I think James Johnson is so athletic. His first two steps are so explosive. He has heavy hands, like Bobby said. And he was 6'2.5", 287 on his visit, the Texas official visit. He's going to be a 305, 310 player. And yes, Brandon Huey, he has skinny ankles.
All right, we got a couple of super chats here regarding you, Bobby, yesterday and social media, I guess. We'll start here with Splendid Daddy. Thank you for the super chat. Never seen Bobby go so hard, flat-footed, savage. And then the loin girder says, Jerry, Bobby, have you checked on Ketch since you bodied him yesterday? Have charges been filed? Maybe a corn dog with mayo as peace offering.
Look, he said Jeff had. I've known Jeff for 30 or 25 years. I don't want to talk about anybody any which way, good, bad, or indifferent, really. But he had said that he made the comment that his cover he was caught flat-footed by the James Johnson commitment, and I would just tell y'all here that On Texas Football clearly was not caught flat-footed. And that's all I wrote. And so I think that people, yes, did I dig at him? Yeah, because apparently he said something about me a couple weeks ago. But I should be better than that, personally. That's where it needs to go. But, yeah, I mean, we weren't – not to take a victory lap because it's not our victory lap to take. It's actually Steve Sarkeesian's and Brandon Harris and Kenny Baker's. You know what I mean? It's those guys are the ones that deserve all the champagne and beer thrown over their heads for yesterday because they're the ones that added 2 players to the roster. But we were happy with the way we covered the news. I'll just put it that way.
I will say this, that doing this a long time, that was the first flip commitment video of SEC on SEC recruiting violence what I've ever filmed while in California. So we filmed that last Friday. So that was a first for me in the business.
All right, another super chat from Longhorn Frenzy. Thank you as always. He says, I may be drinking burnt orange Kool-Aid this morning with Tito's mixed in, but does Texas have a realistic path to the #1 recruiting class?
You know, so much of this depends on where guys you have committed end up being ranked. Like, somebody just dropped Jermaine Bishop 250 spots in a ranking or something, which is absolutely wrong. So that impacts your class ranking. So where do I think Texas is going to add a lot of guys to this class? I do. Look, we'll see what happens on Sunday. It's going to be another big day. We'll see. Then there will be guys. I mean, Justice Terry and Grayson Littleton and Zealous Hicks weren't on the radar for Texas at this point a year ago. They were huge in finishing with the #1 class. I do think Texas has the numbers in the class to make a run at it. But a lot is going to depend on who do they get in on during the season, and then where do all the guys in the class end up being ranked? Because that really, truly does have an impact on your class ranking. Because this thing's come down to decimal points, right? I mean, it comes down to 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 difference. So if you have a guy that goes from a top 75 level guy in the country that's ranked a 5-star in the final ranking, that can push you over the top. But that's why I always just say Texas signs a top 5 level class because it's so close in here. It's so narrow with the algorithms and things like that. Only one company doesn't use a system like that at this point, and that's ESPN. They just rank off of what they think of players. And how that maybe fits a program. And its class size doesn't matter. But so much of this is how many guys you sign and then where they're ranked at the end of the day in January. But that's why I just say Texas is going to have a top 5 level class. Whether that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're going to be in the hunt once again. And sometimes it comes down to how many guys you actually sign.
I'll just say this. The one thing I had a problem with on those rankings, Jermaine Bishop is how he goes down 200 spots. That I don't know enough, but I've watched enough film of Derek Cooper to know he's not the 125th best football player in this country. So I don't know where some rankings come from, and where they may end up as it relates to the national team recruiting rankings, Jerry, like you're talking about, because it's an amalgam of all those things mixed together. But I'm more concerned with when I watch the film, and I think that y'all should too. I really do believe this. And it's the same way Tony Hills feels, by the way, when he watches James Johnson, and I guarantee Tony Hills goes, yes, that guy can play. It's not, oh, well, should he be ranked 10 or 75? It's, do I think that guy's an eventual starter at the University of Texas? You turn on James Johnson's film or Tyler Atkinson's film, what are your thoughts? Do you think those guys start at the University of Texas? I do. And I think that's, that there's just so much nowadays in recruiting rankings that I disagree with from where it started back in the day. And not that what it was back in the day was perfect, because it was far from it. But I just don't understand how Derek Cooper's I've watched a lot of football. If Derek Cooper's the number 125 best player in this country, I don't know what to tell you. Watch too much.
And then Clint Barrows with a super chat. Thank you, Clint. He says, as of now, how much playing time does it look like Brad Spence will be getting this year? He says he's very excited to see him play.
I'll tell you right now, I talked to Anthony Hill yesterday, and he was one of the first names out of Anthony Hill's mouth. He's like, Brad Spence, he's a good player. And so I think that Brad Spence is going to play quite a lot. Trey Moore is going to play a lot. The Longhorns have just a tremendous linebacking core and pass rush core. That's the other piece that they've developed. That's kind of this side pocket that not many people talk about. We talk about them as linebackers as a whole, but Brad Spence can get after the quarterback. Anthony Hill had 8 sacks last year. Trey Moore can get after the quarterback. Texas is starting to have pass rushing linebackers as well as edge guys. And so they're going to be able to come at you from a number of different ways. Pete Kwiatkowski is, and I know Pete Kwiatkowski is not necessarily the recruiter, but his style of defense lends very well. It matches exceedingly well with how Texas is recruiting, if that makes sense. And I think that's Sark said it yesterday at the press conference. Defense wins championships, and we're going to be built with defense. And yesterday, I think Tyler Atkinson and James Johnson kind of proved that. They're willing to make that a priority and, tell the truth. They're going to go after defensive guys and try to prioritize some of them, and that's what they did yesterday.
I will say this on Brad Spence. I think he's so good he'll have a decision to make after this season, whether it's going to be NFL draft or year 2. That's how high I am on Brad Spence. And I think he's going to be a tremendous player at the University of Texas. And the question is it going to be 1 year or 2?
Jerry, you're going to like this next super chat. It's from Victor Aldridge. He says, I beat LaMarcus in golf yesterday. I won $300. Never beat him in basketball or football, so I got to beat him in something, Victor said.
Here's my problem with that, Victor. As much money as LaMarcus has, you should have put more on the line if you're beating him in golf. You should have taken 1,000 out of that pocket yesterday, man. You got to go bigger on that. Hey, by the way, let us know how his son's doing. He's got a young Hooper son, I believe.
All right, guys. Then we have a super chat here from Splendid Daddy. Another one. Thank you again. He says, Kirby just said Muschamp isn't leaving. Any deets on that?
Yeah, so here's the deal with that. Will Muschamp last year, he wasn't really involved. He was in the office a couple of days a week. He would watch some film. He kind of gives some thoughts on the team they're playing, maybe schematical, maybe a game plan. But he wasn't even in Athens on weekends. He was in Nashville where his son plays at Vanderbilt a lot. He's spending a lot of time in Columbia at his lake house. Will he watch some film and give some thoughts still? Potentially. But he hasn't really – last year he wasn't that involved. They just wanted his thoughts in his mind, and I think that's where he was at in his career, and I expect less of that this year. But I don't ever think he'll never be involved in Georgia football. He played at Georgia. But I don't think he's going to be in the office very much anymore.
Champ Bailey, is it safe to say Texas won SEC Media Day yesterday? That would be an understatement. From maybe 11 o'clock on, 11:15 on, when Tyler Atkinson committed to Texas until James Johnson committed around 6 o'clock. I think it's very, very safe to say that, along with Steve Sarkeesian and Arch Manning. The media scrum around Arch was ridiculous, Jerry. Yes, Texas won Media Day yesterday. Yeah, but that helps you nothing in the regular season other than getting those 2 recruits. So we'll see what it means. But if you win a press conference, they won it yesterday.
So I want to answer a question real quick, Mike, because it's been come up a lot. Do y'all see Saban returning? If he runs out of Titleist Pro Vs at Jupiter Hills, maybe. If he lost all the golf balls over there, maybe. But Bobby, I just don't know. I mean, I know that's kind of joking around going on right now. There's only one job you could see him going back to, and that's LSU.
I was going to say LSU loses 5 games. I think they might find a way to find that buyout for old St. Nick. But beyond that, I'm not sure.
All right. Well, we were talking about Texas winning SEC Media Days, and what I was going to say is somebody else that'll help you win, Bobby, is Adam Loewy. Be sure to tell us about him.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam and his team over at Loewy Law Firm have been helping injured Texans for 20-plus years now. UT Law School grad Adam and his firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, from an ATV to an 18-wheeler, make sure you reach out to Adam and his group, loeweylawfirm.com. They'll give you a free, no-strings-attached consultation to see if you and your loved ones might be due compensation. Again, that's Adam Loewy at the Loewy Law Firm, loeweylawfirm.com. Adam, thank you so much for your sponsorship of On Texas Football's Wednesday Coffee and Football. He is also the sponsor of our State of the Program, which is going to be coming up here in a couple hours as well. Thank you very much to Adam over at loeweylawfirm.com.
Thank you, Bobby. All right, some more super chats to get into this morning. And this one from Matt Hanley. He says, good morning, gentlemen. Is the lack of Texas high school recruits to Texas concerning? Per On3, they only have 5 of the top 50. I know recruiting is national now, but it still feels low.
It feels low to me too. And I think if Steve Sarkeesian had his druthers and Brandon Harris, they would have more. I mean, but you can't lose Jamion Winfield to USC. Because he was the only, I think, defensive tackle they had rated at the same level as these guys out of state, or a Jalen Lott. I think there's different places there that maybe Texas feels that way. But, Texas is being extraordinarily selective, and that means they need to be national in some ways. It's not – Texas doesn't fill every need, because in this day and age, you're not going to get every single player. You're just not going to get every player in the state of Texas.
A little different direction here. I had not looked at the state rankings until this question was brought up, and I just did. If anybody thinks Nick Robertson's the 91 best prospect in Texas, they need to turn in the keys to their car in this industry. That's all I got to say. That's a bad ranking. If anybody thinks Max Wright is the 68th best player in the state of Texas, that's a bad ranking. You think, that's just not – so they have more than 5 of the top 50, whether they're ranked there or not. Kyle Flood's not taking third-tier offensive line ranked prospects in the state of Texas. It's not happening. It's a bad ranking.
And speaking of rankings, this next question for David Keith Williams says, Jerry, 3-star recruits that I think are talented enough to be 4 stars are Max Wright, Cohen Brown, and Yaheem Riley. But he goes on to say 4 stars that he thinks are talented enough to be 5 stars are Turntime, Johnson, and Bishop. Of those recruits, who do you think should be moved up in the rankings?
So Cohen Brown, here's where the evaluation process is interesting. So Cohen Brown, his recruitment took off. He was very productive as a junior in high school, right? At Waxahachie, a very difficult district. Only DeCorian Moore had better numbers than he did at receiver. Now, then he goes and posts 10.69, 10.72 on the track in the spring, and he blows up. But here's where I think Cohen Brown should move up in rankings. He's phenomenal in his interviews. This is a complete evaluation. We're lucky enough here at On Texas Football. We had him on the show. A lot of you guys listen to that with Rod and Jeff and CJ. Phenomenal interview. A guy that's an impact winning guy, a guy that's a culture guy, a guy that is going to maximize his talent. There's zero. When I listened to that, there was zero doubt Cohen Brown would maximize his talent. I moved him up to a 4-star immediately after that because he just he checks all the boxes. So he will definitely move up if he puts up another season like that. I think Nicholas Robertson there's no way that guy should be a 3-star prospect. And I'm not saying he is Cam Williams, but Cam Williams was a 3-star prospect in 2/3 of our industry rankings. There was no way Cam Williams was a 3-star prospect, like 0. So I think Nicholas Robertson and Cohen Brown for sure, guys that can't. Look, I've always thought John Turntime's a 5-star prospect. I just don't care. I think he's tremendous. I think he's a surefire guy. So I think Jermaine Bishop will have put up monster numbers and have great tape as a senior at Willis. He plays in a great system. And he's like Quandre Diggs. He plays until he cramps, until he can't play anymore, both sides of the ball. I agree with you on those guys.
All right, and we got time for just one more question. It's a super chat from Honey Badger. Thank you, Honey Badger. He said, Jerry, last year we put on the shades when we talked about Alfred Collins. Who's going to be our shades player this year? And he asked, will it be Alex January?
Man, that is a great question. I hadn't even thought about that, but I think Alex January. I asked Anthony Hill about Alex January yesterday, and he pretty much said he's coming on. For sure, thinks he's going to be a big factor this year. I need to think about that. You know who may be my shades guy this year, guys? Colton Vossick. Colton Vossick.
I like it.
I like that pick. Not a lot of talk. He may be the underdog pick at some level, right? Because people forget that when he plays, he's so productive. He's just had a hard time staying healthy. If he can stay healthy, Jerry, could be a different. I like that one. But Alfred Collins played a little bit more last year. So were you looking for him to go in that contract year? Who's the guy that's going into the contract year? You mentioned Brad Spence.
Think about that. Who's the guy that's in the contract year?
If I went for the second guy, it's a transfer. It's Cole Brevard. He's never been on. He was at Penn State, but then he spent time at Purdue. He hadn't been on a winning team. Now he comes to a winning team. It's his last year in college football. This is his ultimate prove-it year. He's now in the SEC. He's got really good players around him. He's going to play over the ball. He's got some favorable matchups. Maybe it's Cole Brevard.
And we do have one more super chat that just came in, fellas. This one from Hosey11. Was everything yesterday coordinated?
Yes.
Yes.
Simple as that. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football. I want to thank Adam Loewy and the Loewy Law Firm, along with Ridge and South Point Dodge, for sponsoring today's show. Bobby, what's later today?
We have the state of the program coming up here in a couple hours. We've got a number of coaches. Coach Kalen DeBoer has already gone. Brent Venables from OU will be back a little bit later. We also have the live stream tonight. Could have some more recruiting updates during the day. Please make sure, if you don't mind, check us out over at ontexasfootball.com. CJ and Jeff and John Burrows, our young man that is working with us, have all been posting news and notes throughout the day about what's going on and what's being said at SEC Media Days. They'll continue to do that throughout the day here. Jerry and I will be on as well. That's $39.95 for 1 year's access. That's $20 off the normal price. It's for first-time subscribers only. If you use the promo code OTFOG, that's OTFOG, use that promo code and become a member of OnTexasFootball.com. Promise we will have as good a recruiting information, if not better than anybody, as well as talking with folks on the message boards. I think is really rewarding as well, because there's a lot of like-minded Longhorns out there.
Real quick, we just had two more come in. This one from Julian, off subject, but why didn't we land Caden Finley? I would have loved to see him in the Texas uniform.
Yeah, look, I think Texas loves Caden Finley. They loved him as a prospect. Look, we talk about it. Look, Texas won a big battle yesterday, and they had the highest NIL. I think there's some, we're not going to sit here and say, hey, other teams came in and had the highest NIL offer and then not be real on the other side of it. I think Notre Dame came in with a much bigger NIL package for Caden Finley. I also think a little bit of Caden Finley, he wanted to blaze his own trail, do his own thing. I'll say this, and it wasn't the Finley family. It was another person that's committed elsewhere. And that person said there's still 6 months till signing day. We'll see what happens.
And then our last super chat from Tex Fan, thank you. He says the offensive line fact is that DJ and Cole have played in 38 games in every environment and can lead the cohesiveness. Hudson already graduated from McCombs.
Yes, he did. I do think that there's some level of confidence along the offensive line. Nobody is saying that. They just don't have what they had a year ago, which was 4 of 5 starters returning. And so it's relative from 1 year to the next. Last year, everybody was leaning on the offensive line to be a team strength. Now, because they don't have as many starters returning, they question it. I mean, Texas also lost, as good as Trevor Gooseby may or may not be or become, Kelvin Banks was still a first-round pick, right? Cam Williams still got picked by the 5th round. Jake Majors is in a camp. Hayden Connor's in a camp and got picked. They had a really solid offensive line last year. It wasn't perfect, but I think it's fair for people to question the offensive line going into the season, whether or not it's going to be, it's the over concern or over worry that may be a little out of place, in my opinion.
Okay, now then, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football. Thank you all for tuning in. As Bobby said earlier, be sure to head on over to ontexasfootball.com and hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime we go live, post content, whatever it may be in between those two avenues. We got you covered around the clock. Of course, y'all will be back tomorrow morning. I have to take tomorrow morning off because cult, but I'll be back on Friday. But Bobby and Jerry back tomorrow. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you next time.